I am a creature of habit. Always have been. Same coffee shop every morning, same route to work, same gym on Tuesdays and Thursdays, same grocery store on Sunday afternoons. My friends used to joke that you could set your watch by me. I never thought that was a problem. I never thought that was dangerous. It started in January. Small things that I dismissed one by one because none of them seemed significant on their own. The first thing was a feeling. I know that sounds vague, but it was very specific. A feeling of being watched that would come over me at random moments during the day. Standing in line at the coffee shop, walking to my car after work, waiting for the gym to open on Tuesday morning. A crawling sensation on the back of my neck that I could never attach to anything visible. I told myself I was stressed. I told myself I had been watching too many horror videos. I dismissed it completely. The second thing happened about 3 weeks later. I was at the grocery store on a Sunday afternoon, my usual time, my usual store, when I noticed a man at the end of the aisle looking in my direction. Middle-aged, unremarkable, forgettable face. I thought nothing of it. People look at people in grocery stores. But when I turned into the next aisle, he was already there, standing at the far end, facing my direction. I told myself it was coincidence. The store was busy. People moved through aisles in the same order. When I saw him in the parking lot as I was loading my car, standing near the entrance, not moving, watching, I felt that crawling sensation on the back of my neck again, much stronger this time. I drove home fast and told myself I was being paranoid. The third thing happened on a Tuesday. I arrived at the gym at my usual time, 6:45 in the morning, 15 minutes before it opened. I always waited in my car in the parking lot. I had done this every Tuesday and Thursday for almost a year. A car pulled into the lot and parked 2 spaces from mine. I glanced over without thinking, and my stomach dropped. It was him, the man from the grocery store, sitting in his car, facing forward, not moving. I sat very still and watched him in my peripheral vision. He did not get out of the car. He did not look at me directly. He just sat there. When the gym opened and I went inside, he did not follow me in. When I came out an hour later, his car was gone. I went home and sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I went through every explanation I could think of. Maybe he lived nearby. Maybe he went to the same gym and just happened to arrive the same time as me. Maybe he shopped at the same grocery store and this was all just an enormous coincidence. I almost convinced myself. Then on Thursday morning, same time, same parking lot, his car was there again. Same spot, same stillness. Him sitting inside, facing forward, not looking at me directly. That was the moment I stopped calling it coincidence. I called the police that Thursday. I told them what had been happening. They were sympathetic, but told me that without direct contact or threat, they could not do much. They took my description of the man and his car and told me to document everything and call immediately if he approached me or if anything escalated. I started documenting dates, times, locations, every time I saw him or thought I saw him. Within 2 weeks, I had 12 entries. He was at my coffee shop on a Wednesday morning. He was parked on the street outside my office building on a Friday afternoon. He was at the gym parking lot every Tuesday and Thursday without fail. What terrified me most was not the frequency. It was the precision. He was always in the right place. He knew my schedule, my exact schedule, better than most of my friends did. He knew where I would be, and when I would be there with a level of accuracy that meant he had been watching for a very long time before I ever noticed him. I stopped going to my coffee shop. I changed my gym schedule. I varied my route to work every day. I asked a colleague to walk me to my car every evening. And for 3 weeks, nothing. No sightings, no feeling of being watched. I started to breathe again. Then I came home from work one evening and found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper. I opened it with shaking hands. It said, "I noticed you changed your routine. That is okay. I am patient." I called the police from inside my locked car. I did not go into my apartment alone that night. I stayed with a friend for 2 weeks. The police investigated. They identified a suspect from security footage at my office building. He was arrested and charged. During the investigation, they found photographs on his phone. Hundreds of them, going back 8 months. 8 months. He had been watching me for 8 months before I ever felt that first crawl on the back of my neck. I moved apartments. I changed jobs. I changed everything. I still vary my routines every single day. I will do that for the rest of my life. Because I know now what I did not know before, that a routine, any routine, is an invitation to someone who is paying close enough attention. I moved into my apartment in the spring. Ground floor unit in a quiet building, decent neighborhood, reasonable rent. The kind of place where you nod at neighbors in the hallway and occasionally hold the door for someone carrying groceries. Normal, unremarkable, safe. My neighbor across the hall introduced himself about a week after I moved in. Mid-50s, retired, always home. He seemed friendly enough, a little too eager to talk, but I put that down to loneliness. Living alone, retired, not much to do. I felt bad for him, if anything. He knew my name before I told him. I assumed the landlord had mentioned it. He knew I worked in finance. I assumed he had seen me leave in work clothes and made an educated guess. He knew I ordered food delivery most evenings. I assumed he had seen delivery drivers buzz my apartment. Looking back, I was doing a lot of assuming. The first moment something felt genuinely wrong was about 6 weeks after I moved in. I came home from work on a Thursday evening, and he was in the hallway as I came through the front door. He said, "Long day at the Morrison account?" I stopped walking. The Morrison account was a specific client file I'd been working on that week. I had never mentioned it to anyone outside of work. I had never mentioned it to him. There was no way he should have known that name. I asked him how he knew about it. He smiled and said he must have heard me on the phone. I let it go. I told myself maybe I had been on a work call in the hallway at some point and forgotten about it. But I knew I hadn't. I never took work calls in the hallway. I started paying attention after that, really paying attention. He mentioned my sister by name 2 weeks later. I had never told him I had a sister. He mentioned that she had visited the previous weekend, which she had, but briefly, for less than an hour on a Saturday afternoon. He said she seemed nice. He mentioned that I had been sleeping poorly. He said I looked tired and asked if the street noise was keeping me up. The street outside my apartment was very quiet. The only noise at night came from inside the building. There was no reason for him to assume street noise was the issue. He mentioned a specific television show I had been watching, not a popular show, not something anyone would guess. An obscure documentary series I had started that week. He said he had seen good things about it and asked what I thought. I had watched it on my laptop in my bedroom with the door closed. I went through my apartment that weekend, slowly and methodically. Every room, every corner, every object that had been in the apartment when I moved in that I had never thought to question. Behind the smoke detector in my bedroom, which I now noticed was slightly newer than the ones in the rest of the apartment, I found a small wireless camera, the size of a button, angled directly at my bed. I found two more. One in the living room inside a power strip that had been left by the previous tenant. One in the kitchen above the cabinet facing the main counter. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my phone to call the police. The police arrested him that same evening. When they searched his apartment, they found a laptop with months of footage. Not just from my apartment, from 3 other units in the building as well. He had been doing this for years, installing cameras in apartments when tenants moved in or out, watching them, learning everything about them. He had a filing system, folders for each tenant labeled with their names, notes about their schedules, their habits, their relationships, their phone conversations, hundreds of pages of handwritten observations going back years. For me, he had 6 weeks of footage and 14 pages of notes. The thing that stays with me, that I think about every single time I move somewhere new, is how normal he seemed, how genuinely friendly, how I felt bad for him because I thought he was lonely. He was not lonely. He was never lonely. He had an entire building of people whose lives he had made his own without their knowledge or consent. I check every smoke detector now, every power strip, every object that was in a place before I arrived. I check all of them before I unpack a single box. And I never, ever assume that a neighbor knowing something they should not know is just a coincidence. I want to start by saying that I am okay now. I say that because by the end of this story, you are going to need to hear it. It started when I was 24. I had just ended a relationship. 6 months? Nothing serious. Mutual decision. No bad feelings as far as I knew. He took it well, or so I thought. The first sign was small. A week after we broke up, I posted a photo on Instagram from a coffee shop near my new apartment. An hour later, he walked into that coffee shop. He said it was a coincidence. He lived on the other side of the city. The coffee shop was nowhere near anything he had reason to be near. But he smiled and said what a small world, and sat down, and we had an awkward 20-minute conversation, and he left. I told myself it was a coincidence. The second time was 2 weeks later. I was at a park near my apartment, not a well-known park, small and quiet, the kind of place only locals use. He appeared on the path in front of me, said he'd been exploring new parts of the city, said what a coincidence again. I did not say what a coincidence back. I said I had to go, and I left. The third time I saw him outside my apartment building, just standing across the street, looking up. When he saw me see him, he waved and walked away, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I called the police that night. They took a report, told me to keep documenting, told me to let them know if it continued. It continued. Over the next 3 months, he appeared 17 times. I know because I documented every single one. Outside my workplace, in the supermarket, on the bus, at a restaurant where I was having dinner with friends. He walked in alone, sat at a table nearby, ate a full meal, left without speaking to me. The police spoke to him twice. He was calm and cooperative both times. He denied following me, said the city was small, said we simply moved in similar circles. There was no restraining order yet. Not enough documented contact that constituted a legal threshold in my area at the time. I moved apartments. Did not tell anyone the new address except my closest family. Did not post anything on social media for 2 months. Changed my route to work, changed my gym, changed everything I could think to change. For 6 weeks, I saw nothing. I started to think it was over. Then I came out of work one evening and he was parked across the street, just sitting in his car, watching the entrance to my building. He had found my new address. I still do not know how. I had told no one. I had posted nothing. I had been so careful. I went back inside and called the police from the lobby. They came and spoke to him. He said he had been visiting a friend nearby. There was nothing they could do. That night I sat in my new apartment, the address I had guarded so carefully, and realized that it did not matter how carefully I hid. He was going to find me. He always found me. I moved again. Different city this time, 200 miles away. Told no one except my parents, made them promise not to tell a single person, not friends, not extended family, no one. I started over completely. New job, new phone number, deleted every social media account I had ever made. I became as invisible as I possibly could. For 4 months, nothing. I started sleeping properly for the first time in almost a year. I started to feel like myself again. Then my mother called me one afternoon. Her voice was wrong from the first word. She told me that he had shown up at my parents' house, knocked on the front door, asked if they had heard from me, said he was worried about me, said he just wanted to make sure I was okay. My parents lived in a different city from where I had grown up. I had never given him their address. I had never mentioned their city. I had been with him for 6 months, and in that time, he had never once met my parents or been given any information about where they lived. He had found them. I still do not know how. I went to the police in my new city with every piece of documentation I had. 17 months of records. Dates, times, locations, photographs, screenshots, the police reports from my previous city. A lawyer helped me file for a restraining order across jurisdictions. It was granted. He was served. He violated it twice. He was arrested. He spent time in jail. There is now a permanent order against him. That was 5 years ago. I have not seen him since the second arrest. But I still check my mirrors when I drive. I still scan the street before I walk out of any building. I still go cold every time I see someone who is vaguely his height and build from a distance. I am okay now. I said that at the beginning, and I mean it. But okay does not mean the same thing it meant before any of this happened. It never will again. If someone is showing up in places they should not be, trust that feeling. Document everything from the very first moment. Do not wait for it to escalate before you take it seriously. I waited. I told myself coincidence too many times. I gave him months he should never have had. Do not make the same mistake I did. Those were 3 true stories. 3 real people whose lives were completely changed by someone who decided, deliberately and patiently, to invade them. The woman whose routine became a roadmap. The man whose home was never really his own. The woman who could not hide no matter how hard she tried. If any part of these stories resonated with you, if you have ever felt that crawling sensation on the back of your neck that you could not explain, trust it. Document everything. Tell someone. Take it seriously from day one. And if you have your own story, something that happened to you that you have never been able to fully explain, leave it in the comments. I read every single one, and your story might be the next one featured on this channel. If you are new here, welcome to Mr. SHM. Subscribe for new horror stories every single week. Lock your doors tonight, and I will see you in the next one.